Morning. Going on my first backpack of the season. Exciting stuff. Yeah, so I figured I'd do a little reading vlog that is like reading vlog backpacking edition. So I'll check in again when I actually get to the trailhead in like 2.5 hours. It is 7 a.m. Okay. Bye. But first, a coffee as big as my face. Okay, I'm at the trailhead. I've put on my sunscreen, put on my hiking shoes. I'm gonna get started. Let me show you my pack though. At this trailhead, I have to bring in all my water because the water, even with filtration, is not safe to drink. So, carrying in a lot of water. There she is, ready to put on my back. This landscape is obviously very different than Western Washington. I'm on the east side of the Cascade Mountains, which a lot of people don't know, but a lot of Washington State is actually like high desert, pretty barren landscape. So I am near the Columbia River Gorge on the east side of the state, and these really cool lakes called Ancient Lakes. I didn't read up on them enough like I should have, but I know it's something about Ice Age flooding created these canyons, and it's pretty cool. So, yeah, I brought 2 books with me. To the River by Olivia Laing, which I am reading thanks to Katie James. And so I read this book, aka Renee. And I am loving it. It's about walking along a river, the River Ouse, don't know how to say it, which is the river that Virginia Woolf drowned herself in. You know, just some light themes with that, but it's just a lot about walking and musings about the history of the river. I love that shit. I love that shit. So, yeah, and then I brought Anne Carson's autobiography of Red, and yeah, because it was kind of a small book. And yeah, I'm just doing a little overnight. So I'm gonna leave tomorrow morning. We'll see how much reading I get done once I get to camp. And I set up and get cozy. Okay, bye. Okay, so I'm gonna try and zoom and see if you can see that waterfall coming down from the canyon back there. So cool. So you can't see it, but just over that ridge in that canyon is the Columbia River Gorge. This is pretty cool. Do you guys want to see something super sexy? Let's go. Hi everyone. I'm crossing this rock field, and it's kind of hard, and a little etch sketch out here. So I'm gonna be extra safe, and yeah, I'll show you how much I have left. I'm just trying to get to that patch there and go up over this side to get to the other side of the canyon. From this lake is called Dusty Lake. Whew. Okay, I crossed it. Whew. It wasn't even like a lot of up and down. It's just exhausting to hike on that terrain because you have to be super mentally focused, because one wrong step and you could really get hurt. And you're carrying like 35 pounds on your back, so it's harder to balance yourself. Okay. I think that was probably the hardest part of this hike. We shall see. Okay, so I made it to where I'm gonna have some lunch. This is so cool. Look at that. Ah, this is amazing. You can see back in the corner is a waterfall. So cool. If anyone's curious what lunch is, it is one of those squeezable tuna packets, piece of cheese and avocado wrapped in a tortilla. It's pretty great. Hello everyone, I made it to camp. I set up camp. I got a view of 2 waterfalls. Show you in a minute. My tent may or may not be on a flat spot, meaning that it's not on a flat spot. I thought it was. It's not like super bad, but it's definitely not perfectly flat. Anyway, I think I'm gonna take a nap because I am just beat from that hike. First time carrying a lot of weight on my back in a long time. So, and I have a really bad headache because I was trying to conserve water because I had to hike in all my water and I think I got really dehydrated. So I just took some electrolytes, drank a ton of water, and took some ibuprofen, and now I'm gonna take a nap. So far I have not read anything yet. So how's this for a reading vlog? Okay, here's the view of waterfall number 1 from the campsite. Then we have this tent, the crap, waterfall number 2. Look at that, so fancy. Okay, okay, I just took sort of a nap and it was so needed. Oh my god. Oh, I'm feeling a lot better. Headache seems to have gone away, so that's nice. Also, I think I got kind of sunburned, though I put sunscreen on. This is my first intense bit of sun in a long time. Anyway, so I'm reading To the River by Olivia Laing. I mentioned before, this is about the author who's just walking along the River Ouse in England, and it's just really diving deep into the history of the landscape that she's walking on, and I really, really love books like this. It reminds me of Rebecca Solnit's Wanderlust, A History of Walking, and like Robert McFarlane's The Old Ways. Both those books feel very similar to this one, and as someone who likes being outside and walking and ruminating on the landscape around me, I really like how the author is doing this. Yeah, so I will let you know. I'm about a little bit halfway through, sort of, and let you know how it is. I also bought brought the autobiography of Red, and will let you know if I even start that, because I think I'm not going to be reading as much as I thought. And it's getting windy, which means I'm probably not going to sleep that great tonight, because wind in a tent is not quiet, if you can hear that. So we shall see. Okay, here's proof of my crooked tent. Definitely in a little bit of a lane, but you know what? She cute. She cute. Anyone's curious about dinner? I'm eating basically what would be like microwavable pad thai. And it's not bad. Hello. I've eaten dinner, brushed teeth. I am now in the tent. It is like just after 8. Love an excuse to go to bed at 8. The sun just went down. I'll probably go out in a little bit and look at the stars, but for now I'm in here reading to the river, learning about ancient floods and Roman civilization in England. It's pretty interesting. I really like this book so far. There are at least 2 large groups of either like Boy Scouts or some sort of like cusp pubescent boys camping nearby, and they're like unhinged creatures. The sounds they're making, they're like hitting each other with sticks and just screaming. I just hear I've been hearing screaming for hours. Not exactly what I was looking for. Trying getting some peace and quiet out here, but this is one of the most popular hiking trails, so I should have known better. It's just hard this time of year. There's not a lot of options for backpacking, because there's still a lot of snow at high elevation, and in the western side of the state, there's a lot of rain. So, just was part of it. Good thing I brought my noise canceling headphones. Anyway, back to reading. I think I'll probably finish this tonight. After reading this afternoon, I'm 3/4 of the way done. And I'll let you know what I think of it at the end. It's so hard to summarize because she talks about so much, but really it's her walking along the River Ouse and unearthing the past, essentially. So bringing up a lot of different archaeological digs that have happened in different areas that she's in, prominent historical battles. She also will sometimes then weave in stories about Virginia Woolf at the same time. Overall, I'm just really loving the flow of it. No pun intended, river book. Yeah, so I'll keep you posted. And, yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. Bye. Good morning. I slept horrendously. Yeah, I think I'm still figuring some of my gear out, and it was very uncomfortable, very cold.
just all around uncomfortable. So I think I slept like 3 hours, and then I was up basically from midnight until 6 in the morning, trying to sleep. And then finally I popped in my audiobook. I'm listening to My Cousin and Rachel by Daphne still. And that sort of helped. And then around 6 a.m. I think I fell back asleep and woke up at 8. So luckily it's a short hike out today, only a couple miles, and then I'm going home, and I'm gonna buy a big old coffee when I get into town, but I'm also drinking coffee right now, so that helps. It's part of it. I haven't slept in a tent in a long time, so I think I just was getting used to it. Anyway, I'm gonna make my oatmeal. Bye. Okay. I'm hiking out to the car. I got almost done with To the River by Olivia Laing, but I was very cold and it was hard to read because my hands had to be out of the sleeping bag. I'm such a baby. And yeah, so hopefully when I get home tonight, if I don't fall straight asleep, I will finish it. But highly recommend. I think I want to read The Lonely City next. I feel like that To the River was maybe written right before The Lonely City, which is where I think she moves to New York after a breakup and talks about loneliness and art, which I think is super fascinating. So I think she's a really good writer. This is the first thing I've read by her, and excited to read more. I really love this style of like historical narrative nonfiction. Big fan. Okay, I'm gonna keep hiking. Bye. Good morning, everyone. It is now the next day. No, it's actually Tuesday, so it's 2 days after I got back. I meant to film yesterday, but I was really busy, and I also meant to film Sunday when I got back, but I ended up sleeping like 13 hours Sunday night because I was so tired because I basically didn't sleep on Saturday night. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming along with me on that journey. I thought I'd let you know that I did finish To the River by Olivia Laing, and I really loved this. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend for anyone who kind of likes that sort of narrative nonfiction that weaves in kind of a multitude of things. So she talks a lot about history, geology, archaeology. She talks a lot about climate change as well, and kind of what the future of this area is going to look like, whether it's going to dry up or flood with sea level rise. And I really like how she weaved in the story of Virginia Woolf and her death, and particularly also her husband, Leonard Woolf. It was just really well done. I learned a lot. Some stuff did go over my head because I have never been to England and I'm American. So there are a lot of things that I didn't really like get just because of the area she was talking about. I had to like look at, I pull up Google Maps a lot to try and figure out where she was because this area is just not familiar to me. But either way, it was still a super good read, and I highly recommend. Okay, and on that note, I thought I would maybe just share really quickly some books that are about either walking or nature that I really, really like, because that is a genre of book that I very much like to read. And all of these are either poetry or nonfiction. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book I read a really long time ago, and it's called Trace, Memory, History, Race, and the American Landscape by Lauret Savoy. Yeah, so in this book, Savoy explores how the country's still unfolding history and ideas of race have marked her and the land. From twisted terrain in the San Andreas Fault Zone to a South Carolina plantation, from national parks to burial grounds, from Indian Territory and the U.S.-Mexico border to the U.S. Capitol, Trace grapples with the searing national history to reveal the often unvoiced presence of the past. I really loved this book when I read it, I think like 5 years ago, and honestly, I haven't really seen anything since, like it since. So I definitely recommend this, and I could even see myself rereading it. Okay, next is another American writer. I just pulled the 2 books I own from her, but Tempest Williams is kind of a very prominent nature outdoor writer. She writes a lot about the Southwest, particularly Utah. I believe she did have a book of essays on national parks that came out that I haven't read yet. These are the only Tempest Williams I've read. But she writes a lot about just musings on the landscape. She also, I like how she weaves in like feminist narratives. I believe she comes from a Mormon family. She grew up in Utah, and I don't believe she's Mormon anymore, but she kind of talks about that, which I really like. She talks about that quite a bit in When Women Were Birds, and I just love this cover because it's like an owl feathers. It's really gorgeous. So yeah, I really enjoy Tempest Williams as well. Okay, and then getting into kind of, I guess, poetry is Mary Oliver. So Mary Oliver is like my favorite poet of all time. I love Mary Oliver. I read Upstream when it came out a while ago. I believe Literary Iggy just read this in her last vlog and was like raving about it, and I was like, yes, Iggy, Mary Oliver is the best. So yeah, this is kind of one of her book of essays, which is different. She often writes poetry. So, and I believe too, this is one of the last things published before she passed away. So yeah, I highly recommend Upstream by Mary Oliver, as well as all of her poetry and everything she's ever written. And then more nature writing. One of my favorite books of all time is Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. I did read this a long time ago as well. And yeah, this is really just Annie Dillard. I believe she lives, I think it's in Pennsylvania. Oh God, maybe Virginia, something like that. And it's just her musings on the landscape. And that's really it. This has been kind of called the 20th century Walden Pond, which I'm all about. So definitely recommend this. Okay, and if you're really into hiking and through hiking, I really recommend Quinn's Through Hiking Will Break Your Heart, an adventure on the Pacific Crest Trail. I really like this. It's a great alternative to Wild because this actually gives you a day in, day out of what it's like to be on the trail. And Quinn is a queer writer who does a ton of long distance hiking. I believe they have some other books out as well. Yeah, so highly recommend this. Okay, and last but not least, I have Wanderlust by Rebecca Solnit, and this is a history of walking. And I love this book. It's super fascinating. It follows sort of the history of hiking culture, of like free roaming grounds in the UK. Just an all around really well researched, well done book. Yeah. Okay, so those were my recommendations on nature writing, books about walking. Hopefully inspire some of you to pick it up. I am preparing in high gear now for my long trail I'm doing in July. So if there is more nature-like content and books I'm reading, that is why, because I'm getting very, very into it at the moment. Yeah, anyway, I hope you liked this little nature vlog, and there will be more of that to come in the next couple months. Okay, bye.